Hi, my name is Bill Rabb. I'm honored to be here today to speak at RAW 2025. Today, we're going to talk about leveraging mental models. To me, this is a way that we as risk managers can build a really good foundation and some credibility with our executive teams that we support. Oftentimes throughout my career, I've found that, when I'm talking risk to an executive, we're often talking different languages and they're thinking about it in a way that's different from me. Oftentimes they struggle to take a quantitative analysis and apply it from a probabilistic standpoint or from another standpoint, which we'll get into a little bit. One of the things that's it's important to me as a risk manager is that I continue to grow and that I continue to find ways to bring value to any organization that I'm working with or for. I'm currently a consultant, so I get to work with a number of organizations, and I've had a lot of challenging questions over the years when it comes to risk management and the value of risk management. And as we're getting started, I would position one of those questions to you and say, I had somebody ask me one time, why do I need a human or a team or a department to tell me that this is a risk or that's a risk? Why do I need somebody that can tell me something I already know? Hopefully, after you see this series of slides today and my talk, you understand what my answer was. But what would your answer be? Would you be able to answer that question? Would you be able to defend the work that you do for your organization in a way that could show the executives you're bringing value and not just, creating a new risk register or going through another risk assessment process? Today, hopefully, after this is over, you will have found some tools that you can use to bridge the gap between how executives sometimes think and how risk managers sometimes think. One thing I will say is that this topic is a very big topic. We could spend a college semester covering the topics of mental models and how they impact decision making. This is meant to be just an appetite whetter. I'm always open to conversations. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can reach out. You can challenge something that I've said in this conversation. I'd love to have a Teams call and just talk through. Open dissension to me is one of the hallmarks of an effective organization. And I'm happy to talk through anything that I say that you may agree with or disagree with or want more information about. With that, I will get started. So I think as we go into this, I want to come across and talk about a few concepts that I think are very important. The first is, we as human beings are not really good at assessing risk, right? We've known for years now the danger of texting and driving. And I imagine a number of us have probably done it at one point or another in our lives. And what you find is that you don't get an immediate negative consequence from taking that risk or from doing that behavior that could lead to something very significant. So I think as humans, we tend to think, we get a certain amount of confirmation bias that, hey, I'm better than most people at texting while driving. So I'm not going to be the one that doesn't see the pedestrian crossing the road and cause a severe accident, when that's really not true, right? And we all know that. And I think for all of us that pops up. Recently, I was listening to a podcast, and it was an expert who's an AI safety expert, and some of their predictions are pretty dire. And this person's prediction was that 99% unemployment rate within the next decade. And I just kind of brushed it off and said, that's nothing, right? That cognitive dissonance that comes into our minds when we hear things that we don't want to think about or don't want to address. That's what you got to think about when you're presenting risk information to executives. If it's going to derail a project that they're working on or a passion project or something that they think is valuable, they may just dismiss it because of cognitive dissonance. And we don't assess risk well. We don't think these things can happen to us all the time, right? I've been in areas where, there's a 1 in 100-year storm that hits twice in a decade, and, they would have thought before it hit the first time that it wasn't going to happen in their lifetime. And I think that as we go through these models and as we think about this, it's something that's extremely important for us to keep in mind, is that our message isn't going to land the way it should or the way we want it to every time. Back to my example about the podcast, I stopped myself. I went and looked around a little bit to see kind of where this person was pulling their data from. I started gathering information and making my own conclusions based on real information and not my own mindset.